Now, moving on to more controversy surrounding the so-called stand your ground laws. According to a new study from Texas A&M University, the ALEC and Walmart-backed stand your ground, shoot first laws around the country do not deter crime like proponents say they do, but in fact cause more of it. The study's authors argued that stand your ground, shoot first laws increase the chances of murder or manslaughter, quote, by lowering the expected costs associated with using lethal force, end quote. The release of the Texas A&M study comes just days after the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights announced it would be taking a closer look at the stand your ground, shoot first laws, after numerous studies have shown there's a racial bias inherent in them. For example, an FBI study found that, quoting the FBI here, 34% of cases involving a white shooter killing a black person were deemed as justifiable homicide. Meanwhile, in similar situations, when the shooter was black and the victim was white, the homicide was ruled justifiable only 3.3% of the time. Of course, the commission's investigation is too little too late for the family of Trayvon Martin, the most notable victim of the violence promoted by Florida's Stand Your Ground law. However, in Florida and the 24 other states with some type of Stand Your Ground, Shoot First law, there have been dozens of other murders committed that have gone unreported by the mainstream media. Joining me now to talk more about America's Stand Your Ground, Shoot First laws and the people who have died because of them is Suewon Lee, reporter with ProPublica. Suewon, welcome. Suvan,
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks
sorry,
for having me.
I'm mispronouncing your name. How far does Florida's Stand Your Ground law reach?
Well, Florida's Stand Your Ground law basically removes a person's duty to retreat in public places where he has a right to be and authorizes that person to use deadly force against another person in cases where he believes that he had reason to believe that he was in fear of death or harm to himself. So essentially what it does is it broadens the castle doctrine in which a person had every right to use deadly force against a person who enters his home and extends this to public places.
Suvan, how many times has this come up in court decisions around the country?
Well, the most recent study conducted by the Tampa Bay Times has identified at least 200 cases since 2005 when the law was passed in Florida in which the law was invoked. So at least 200 instances and counting.
Wow, that's extraordinary. And each one involves somebody dying and a whole lot of people, families in pain. Tell me the stories of Joe Horn and Byron Thomas.
Sure. In some of the cases that we highlighted in our piece, Joe Horn was a man in Harris County, Texas. He observed two men burglarizing his neighbor's home. He called up 911, as he had every right to do, and told the operator about what was happening. He saw the two men leaving the home, and as he was telling the operator, "You better come quick, I see them leaving." The operator essentially told him to stay inside. He wanted to pull out his shotgun. He expressed his desire to use force against these two men, and against the operator's cautionary words, he actually ended up shooting these two men, and a grand jury declined to indict him of any criminal charges in Texas. I believe the other case you asked me about was Bo Morrison. Mm-hmm. You're right. That was a case in Wisconsin in which a young man ended up actually going to a porch in which he was actually at a neighboring underage drinking party. He was hiding out on this porch. The homeowner of that home came out, observed him on the deck. A little bit startled, he actually ended up shooting him in the chest, killing him. In that particular case, the Wisconsin County District Attorney failed to bring any criminal charges against the homeowner. To
what extent is there legitimate pushback to these laws? Beyond the conversation that we're having, I mean, this kind of, is there any serious pushback happening at a legislative level?
I think it's still a little too early to observe any sort of pushback on that level. There is pushback, of course, in community areas. For instance, today in Florida, they held a task force meeting inviting the public to come in and comment on their views and their perspectives about the Stand Your Ground law. So at this point, it's still very much at a entertaining public views and viewpoints about the law, but we have to wait and see until actually legislatures come back to assess whether there needs to be revisions to such laws around the country.
Yeah, indeed. Suvon Lee, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.